This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana makes car selling fast and easy from start to finish. Enter your license plate or VIN and get a real offer in seconds, down to the penny. If you accept, Carvana will come pick up your car from your driveway. Or you can drop it off at one of our car vending machines. Either way, you get paid instantly. It's fast, transparent, and 100% online. Car selling that saves your time. That's Carvana.
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Introducing Meta Ray-Ban Display, the world's most advanced AI glasses. With a full color display built into the lens of the glasses, it's there when you need it and gone when you don't. Send and receive messages, translate or caption live conversations, collaborate with Meta AI, and more. Be one of the first to try Meta Ray-Ban Display. Visit meta.com/Meta Ray-Ban Display to book a demo and find your pair.
Or I will remove the name of the balls from her mouth. Well, the names of the balls.
The names of the balls.
Yeah, Thunder and Lightning.
Donner and Blitzen. All right.
If the left one don't get you, then the right one will. Hey, everybody, I'm Dan McClellan.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And you're listening to the Data Over Dogma podcast, where we increase public access to the academic study of the Bible and religion, and we combat the spread of misinformation about the same. How go things today, Dan?
Things go well for me. You're back under the weather, I think, a little bit.
A little bit. I'm on the end of it. Yeah,
I'm guessing that our listeners will forgive a little bit of nasal resonance coming out of you.
Hopefully, yeah. I think sometimes it can make the baritone a little more pleasing,
a little sexier. Yeah. All right. He's going for sexy, everybody.
Well, when I was a missionary, there was a time I called into the mission office. I was into the mission home. I was in the offices. I was the financiero. I was the financial secretary for several months, and I had a great relationship, still do, with my mission president's wife, Julie. She was wonderful. We all called her La Hermana, but one day I called in. I had a cold, and I was like, "Hey, is the president there?" And she was like, "Who is this?" It's like, Elder McClellan. She's like, "Your voice sounds really sexy, Elder McClellan," and that made me deeply uncomfortable.
Wow, but, there you go. I like it.
But shout out to Julie. She's awesome.
What did you call her? La Esposa? What did
La Hermana.
La Hermana.
Yeah.
The woman.
The sister.
The sister. That's what
yes,
it is.
Yes.
What it is. Yeah.
And so anyway, moving beyond my extreme discomfort with that.
Yeah. Let's dive into a show. I think we can do it.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be doing a couple of fun segments, and we're keeping it sexy. I think we're going to keep the theme sex themed throughout the entire show.
We're bringing sexy way back, way back
to
2,800 years almost.
Yeah, exactly. we're going as far back as we can comfortably go. The first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna do an It's the Law. We haven't done one of these for a little while.
Yeah,
and that's gonna be one of the top 10 of all of the commandments.
Yeah, of all the 10 commandments, this is one of them.
It is one of them, and it is the one about adultery. So that'll be fun. And then there's an unassuming book just sort of buried in the middle of the Hebrew Bible called Hosea.
We don't talk about it a lot. A lot of people don't know what's going on with Hosea, unless of course they're scholars of the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, in which case they know Hosea is a big deal. And,
okay.
And we're going to talk about why Hosea is a big deal.
Yeah. Beyond just how often it references sex work. But
if Hosea was a person, it would come up to you at a party and say, "I'm kind of a big deal." So,
all right.
That joke has levels. So anyway,
that'll be our chapter and verse in the second half of the show. But first off, it's the law. Breaking the law.
Or as the great poet said, scraping the jaw.
Oh, okay.
That was I can't do that laugh anymore. My voice does not do the crack with the laugh.
You can't do you can't Beavis.
No, not as
anymore?
much as I used to be able to. When I was younger, I could do the. Yeah, I can't.
All right. So here's the thing. We're talking about. I don't even know which of the 10 Commandments it is. I guess the seventh?
It's Exodus 20, verse 14.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a.
Just depends on how you count.
Yeah, this is a little inside baseball, but I have taught primary multiple times
that's the child
Yes.
classes in Mormondom. Yeah.
Yes, and my students come out of there knowing more than their parents do about the Bible.
No one's surprised to hear that.
No.
Yeah.
And one of the things, one year I was like, guess what? All y'all, you're memorizing the 10 Commandments. And those kids came out of there knowing the 10 Commandments. And I used a little, I don't even remember what you call it, an initialism, where you have a little narrative that you, and for the Mormons, I would say why I never see President Monson at Salt Lake. And so you got you got worship, you got idols, you got the name, you got the Sabbath, and then P is for parents, and then Monson is murder, at is adultery, Salt Lake is or steal, lie, and then Salt Lake City, C is covet. So if you can remember that, you can remember all 10 commandments. So why I never see President Monson at, so that's the 7th commandment. Yeah, there you go. According to the a Protestant numbering of the 10
That's right. As we have discussed, there are many different ways that you can enumerate the commandments, and 10 is not really a very good number for them.
No, you could count more than that. Although we've already talked about how Exodus 34 is the only place where it actually refers to the set of commandments as 10.
And it's not these ones.
And it's not these ones.
Right.
No, it's the you shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk and stuff like that.
Yeah, something about yeast and bread and who knows, the festival of
stuff like that.
Yeast. I don't know. It's just crazy.
There is a reference in, I think, Deuteronomy 3 or 4 where it talks about these 10 things, and then Deuteronomy 5 recounts the 10 commandments almost exactly as we find in Exodus 20.
Right.
But yeah, you could divide it into a few different numbers. So we got number 7. It's 2 short words in Hebrew: lo, tin, af. I mean, nuff said, right? Or nuff said. Zing. But and that literally means you shall not commit adultery.
Okay. And that sounds straightforward.
Doesn't it though?
Easy. It sounds like, oh, we now know what that means. And here's the thing. I don't think we do. And the reason that I don't think we do, and I'll let you elucidate this quite a lot. But what I noticed, and maybe other astute listeners may have caught this as they did their own Bible study, or as they listened to our show and heard stories about all of these characters and whatever. The Bible's totally fine with a lot of things that we consider adultery now.
Yes. The Bible doesn't seem to care much when guys are out there getting their thing wet. And
well, as long as
it's not with someone who belongs to another man.
Right. And that seems to be the crux of it, right? It's a property rights issue as much as anything.
It is a property rights issue. A lot of people want to make this about there's no parity here.
Right.
Like it is very much a case of women are the property of men. And a man who is betrothed to a woman or married to a woman, that contractual relationship is considered sacrosanct in that society because that's the relationship that facilitates procreation. And so that's what carries the society on, strengthens it, perpetuates it, protects it, all that kind of stuff. And so the adultery is really a violation of those property rights, which is why A woman is prohibited from having any and all premarital or extramarital sex, period.
Right.
A man is not.
Right.
As long as the woman is not betrothed or married to someone else. So a man is legally not prohibited from going out and having sex with a sex worker or with a woman who is not betrothed or married to someone else, whether he's married or not. And that's what a lot of people...
There are like some sort of legalistic things that can happen. Like, you know, the Bible does delineate, again, whoever this woman is, if she is not married, she is likely the property now of her father.
Right.
And her sexual inexperience is a commodity that he owns.
Absolutely.
So if someone were to sleep with, if a man, married or otherwise, is to sleep with a woman, he is violating her father's rights.
Correct.
In that respect, right?
Yes. Now this is for an Israelite girl.
Okay.
So this is a freeborn
that's
Israelite or
right,
Judahite.
that's right.
Because if she's a foreigner or if she is an enslaved girl or something like that, it doesn't really matter. But it matters if she is eligible for proper Israelite marriage, because her father then stands to benefit financially from that transaction. And so, yes, it's a violation of his property rights. It's not as serious a violation. So we see in Exodus 22:16, we see in Deuteronomy 22:28 and 29 that Exodus 22:16 uses a word that a lot of scholars translate seduce. So it's not clear that it is non-consensual. There is some coercion going on, maybe. It might be sexual assault, it might not be. Deuteronomy 22:28 and 29 is clearly sexual assault. No matter what an apologist tells you, it is about sexual assault. They will make up all kinds of crap about the verb tafas and say it just means to handle. It just means he's handling her. You know, it's consensual. And that's garbage. Every time the object of the verb is a person, it means force. So anyway, in those two cases, the perpetrator owes the father an elevated bride price. And then he is required to marry the girl because she's damaged goods now. She's no longer eligible for proper Israelite marriage. And so the penalty is like, well, you broke it, you bought it.
Right. And since we're using fairly rough terminology for all of this, can we make it clear that this is not our feeling about how things are? This is, but this literally is exactly how the Bible treats these scenarios.
Yes, because and when you look in Deuteronomy 22:28 and 29, and the verses that lead up to it, 22 through 22 is one, 23 through 27 is another segment. When you look at these things, the problem is that this has violated someone's rights, which is why if the woman is betrothed or married, the penalty for the assaulter is death. If she's not betrothed or married, it's that elevated bride price, and it's you've got to marry her. You're never allowed to divorce her. Her father can reject the marriage, however, and just take the money.
Right.
But what that indicates is that the severity of the punishment depends upon who is asserting rights over the woman's procreative capacities and sexual availability. Is it a husband, in which case, death? Is it cake or death? You get death or you get the wedding cake from marrying this girl. It's a case of cake or death.
One wonders if Eddie Izzard had this in mind.
I would not be surprised. Eddie Izzard is a genius on several levels, so it would not surprise me in the least. However, yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a question of property rights, and adultery comes down to property rights. It is not a fundamentally moral question. It's a question of property rights,
right?
Which is why if a guy's married, he can go out and have sex with a sex worker. She's not eligible for proper Israelite marriage. Nobody owns her.
Well, and we've talked about this multiple times, where heroes of the Bible, people who are good, considered good, upstanding men of the Bible, have gone out and partaken of sex work with no problem, including not with no problem. So every now and then it's his daughter-in-law tricking him.
Yes.
But the problem isn't that he partook of a sex worker's wares.
Right.
It's that's never an issue.
Yeah. So there's quite an asymmetry here going on regarding responsibilities related to sex.
Yeah.
And the propriety of sex, because it's not. People today like to think of sex as this holy, not full of holes, but there are holes involved, but in this sanctified thing where this is the power that grants life and stuff like that. No, not in the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah,
Hebrew Bible, sex was just an everyday part of life.
And we're talking about like the big dogs of the Hebrew Bible. Abraham has the whole thing with Hagar.
Yes.
So he's got a wife. She's not producing.
Yeah.
And so he sleeps with her maidservant, right? Is that's basically it?
Enslaved girl, yeah.
Jacob has a whole bunch of. He's got Leah and Rachel, and sleeps with their maidservants as well.
Yep. You got Judah, who messed up with the daughter-in-law because he wouldn't give his other son to her because he thought she was the Black Widow.
Yes.
And she tricked him into impregnating her, and he was like, "Uno buena." You got me.
That was a good trick.
Well played. So and in none of these cases is anyone treating sex as if it is some sacrosanct kind of experience that that God has placed these boundaries around outside of questions of property rights.
Right.
So adultery is a very different thing in the Hebrew Bible. It is not it is not what we talk about when we talk about adultery today.
Right.
And when Jesus says any man who looks on a woman to lust after her has committed adultery already with her in his heart, that is a significant renegotiation of what's going on here.
Well, we should dive into that because it does seem like the New Testament does have a modified version of or a modified view of what adultery is and what it means.
Yes. And that is primarily the product of Greco-Roman society.
Okay.
Because we have the introduction of Greek philosophy, one, and then Greco-Roman family conventions, household conventions, and norms and things like that, where it was still, men had a lot more freedom than women still, but those who were a little more philosophically oriented were asserted a bit more parity between the sexes related to sexual activity because sexual desire began to be seen as kind of this one of the baser urges of the corrupt flesh. And particularly through a Platonic lens where you have the divine, the world of the divine and the world of the flesh, and you were really trying to transcend the world of the flesh to commune with and hopefully one day return to the world of the divine. This is where the idea of the logos, the word, Jesus says the word, this is what it's based on. This is what Paul is talking about an awful lot. But as a result of this, sex was seen as something dirty.
Right.
And we've talked about this.
They talk about it as carnal, as being being of, like you say, it becomes this thing of two realms where one group of things is sort of the body and of the earth, and that's the lesser things.
Yes.
And then there are the things of the spirit and of the divine, and that's the things to which one is supposed to aspire.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I disagree, but that's
that's
the Greeks for you. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it's all Greek to them.
Hey, friends, if you're still overpaying for wireless, it is time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. Here's why I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for $15 a month.
Well, here's why I said yes to it.
Oh, you're going to just jump in. I see how this works. Okay,
well, I didn't know if you were going to carry on.
Here's
with
why
the
Dan said yes. I think it's good.
So anyway, I have a better reason than you, I think.
I think you do.
Because so we got phones for our teenage daughters, and we use Mint Wireless, and the service is phenomenal. It's so easy. I think I've told the story before. I was taking my daughter up to Vancouver for a very special concert, and we crossed the border, and I was like, oh, crap, I forgot. International roaming, all this kind of stuff. And she got a little text on her phone while I was worrying about this saying, welcome to Canada, you're all set. And she had everything she needed. It was phenomenal. With Mint Mobile, you can ditch overpriced wireless and their jaw-dropping monthly bills, the unexpected overages and hidden fees. Plans start at $15 a month at Mint. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. I use this service. I think you should too.
Yeah, why would you want to pay more to the big companies when somebody's going to give you the same or better quality for less? If you're ready to say yes to saying no, make the switch at mintmobile.com/dogma. That's mintmobile.com/dogma. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. New players, new games, new rules. Squid Game, The Challenge returns for a gripping second season. 456 contestants from all walks of life, competing in the ultimate test of strategy, alliances, and endurance. For a life-changing prize of $4.56 million. With stakes this high, why make friends when you can make millions? Watch Squid Game, The Challenge Season 2, only on Netflix November 4th.
And something that you have in Greco-Roman period Judaism is this whole spectrum of approaches to the propriety of sex. And we've talked about this before, where there were some hardliners who talked about sex as something that was only ever appropriate for procreation, and so it was totally inappropriate when it was not explicitly for the sake of procreation. So, past menopause, sorry, man, y'all are retired. The wife is menstruating, that's already out. She's pregnant right now. Sorry, you're going to have to take matters into your own hands or not. But there were those who said, and even when you are engaged in intercourse for the sake of procreation, you're not allowed to enjoy it, because to enjoy it is to mess around in the filth of fleshly desire. And so you're supposed to be above that. You're supposed to be just doing your husbandly duty with a stoic face.
Right.
Maybe a little bead of sweat drips off your nose or whatever, but otherwise you are stone-faced.
It is your joyless exertion that is required of you.
And then you had others who were a little more lenient, who were like, if they're past the period of being able to have kids, it's no big deal. But otherwise, you're supposed to be stay away from doing it when it's not explicitly for procreation. So you had this whole spectrum of approaches to the propriety of sex, but for the most part, it was considered something that we are better leaving behind. And this is the approach of Paul. This is the approach of the author of the Gospel of Matthew. Has Jesus say, there are those who are born eunuchs, there are those who are made eunuchs by men, and there are those who make themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. And this is a hard saying, it
is. I agree. That is hard. Yeah, that's rough.
And he says, let anyone who can accept it, accept it. Basically saying, the real ones are going to be celibate, and perhaps even And this led to self-castration among a lot of early Christians. And a lot of people don't know that one of the first rules they laid down, they did 3 things at the Council of Nicaea, 325 CE, Constantine. They were there to resolve the Arian controversy. They were there to come up with a new way to determine the date of Easter every year that decoupled it from Judaism and allowed people to calculate it on their own. Third thing they did was come up with a list of canon law. Law number 1, nobody who has castrated himself is eligible for the clergy.
Oh,
yeah. It was like, sorry, you thought you were a real one, and
you thought you were doing the right thing.
You're out now. Yeah,
sorry.
So the sexual ethic was it was motivated by Greek philosophy and Greco-Roman societal conventions. So when we look at how Paul and Jesus and other folks are talking about sex in the New Testament, is very different from the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah.
And it's influenced by Greek philosophy. And
I think it's so important. You love it. You talk a lot about univocality is your word, about how anyone who assumes that the entirety of the Bible from Genesis to Revelation is going to be in harmony with each other. You're just going to be you're just missing the depth and the breadth of this book, or rather this huge series of books. It's not a book; it is many books over centuries. And of course, there are going to be philosophical and legal and moral innovations over that much time.
Absolutely. And I think it does so much violence to the text to force it into these strictures and say, no, not allowed to say that. It's not allowed to do that. It has to say this.
Right.
The book is so much more fascinating and so much weirder when you allow it to operate on its own terms. And so it's so much cooler.
I think
let the book do its thing.
I think you and I really embrace, and I think most of our listeners really embrace the weirdness that you're discussing. But I do think that might be why it's so uncomfortable for a lot of people, because they want this book to be holy and pure. Like they want to be able to look to it and have it just be the exalted, perfect word of God, so that they don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
So that it's not challenging, so that it's just easy and nice.
And it just sits there as the transcendent and unassailable authority for your identity politics.
Right.
They want it to change everybody else. You don't want it to change you. You just want to leverage it as the change everybody bludgeon to go make everybody else fall in line with your thinking, whatever that thinking happens to be.
Yeah, and then you go and you compare the story of David and, Bathsheba and all of his wives and all of his concubines and whatever with the Matthew quote of Jesus about, if you look at a woman lustfully, you've already committed adultery. Those are two very different perspectives.
Yeah, yeah. And that's also Matthew saying you have to obey the law of Moses. Only I'm ratcheting it up. I'm ratcheting up some of the laws.
Right, you have to obey the law of Moses, but we're redefining all of it. We're redefining it. So
your righteousness must exceed the righteousness of the Pharisees. It is. And when you look at the stories about King David, what does Nathan compare David's adultery to? He compares it to stealing some farmer's lamb,
right,
and eating it. And it's like, well, it's a person that you have effectively raped.
It's a human being.
Yes.
And also you had the farmer killed in that particular metaphor.
Yeah. And what is it about again? His property.
Property rights, yeah.
It wasn't because there was something, morally wrong about this particular phallus in this particular area. It wasn't that this, and later the more holiness code laws, that's where you have this idea that these actions generate this metaphysical contamination that gets out on the land and pollutes the land, and the land can only handle so much before it's going to vomit you out. You do get this idea that there is this metaphysical aspect to these sins, but for the folks who wrote Samuel, knows it's just that she belonged to somebody else. He violated somebody else's property rights.
Right.
And as king, that's a no-no. Nobody cares about Bathsheba in that text.
Right.
So
yeah.
It's problematic.
Yeah.
As all get out.
Well, maybe not for them. Maybe not for David, but it's problematic for us.
Yes. And it should be problematic for all y'all out there.
Yeah.
And this brings up, this is only tangentially related to our topic, but it is something that has me fuming.
Oh,
somebody on Twitter or X or whatever the hell people want to call it these days, recently, like X, my algorithm on X is so effed right now. If I can say that.
I thought everybody's was. That's why I left.
All I get is these Christian nationalists and freaking Elon, and it just irritates me to no end. However, somebody posted something, said in response to something about divine command ethics, they said the universe goes unchanged if someone rapes. Without God, morals have no meaning. And I responded to this. God of the Bible doesn't really seem to care about rape. It's not even punished unless it's a free Israelite girl. Then it's only a property crime against her husband, in which case it's the death penalty, or her father, in which case she pays an elevated bride price. Foreign and enslaved girls could be violated at will. Somebody who's evidently been following me on Twitter for some time took issue with my statement and just wanted to complain about it. And what they retreated to was 1 Corinthians 7, 1 through 5. I don't know if you have this passage memorized, but
I don't.
This is something that a lot of people have appealed to, where it says the husband's body is not his own, the wife's body is not her own. They should render unto each other due benevolence, which is basically a way to say you owe your spouse their conjugal rights.
Right.
And so
right.
So this person commented, people have no right to arbitrarily refuse intimacy in marriage. Parentheses, 1 Corinthians 7, 1 through 5, close parentheses. And I've seen this verse come up a lot recently. This is apologetics for marital rape.
Right.
This is insisting that there's no such thing as marital rape because a wife's body is not her own in marriage, and that her husband has a right to her body. And that is so abominable.
Yeah,
And-
it is on its face obviously wrong.
Yeah, it's disgusting, but it is something that an awful lot of Christians on social media seem to think is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And if you're in a worldview where, if you're participating in a society or a worldview where that is seen as okay, you need to sit a few plays out. You need to come to grips with the fact that that is rape apologetics.
Yeah.
There is no circumstance in which a woman's right to her bodily autonomy is forfeited to a man, ever. And it does not matter if you are Paul, who prided himself in being celibate anyway.
Right.
He wasn't even on the field for any of this. So I don't care what he has to say.
Right.
But yeah, I loathe when people bring up 1 Corinthians 7, 1 through 5.
Well, it's just, yeah, I mean, and I have seen both women and men online quoting that idea and saying, that and it's all, what's funny is that the way you said it, I don't know that I knew the scripture that they were referencing when they did it. But the way you said it made it sound like the woman also has the right to just demand sex
that's
from
how,
a man whenever he
that's
wants.
that's how men make it sound okay. It's like, it's reciprocal. It's reciprocal.
Right.
It's reciprocal. She can demand it too. Yeah. Now, I will say there are not a ton of women out there who are like, I'm not getting it enough, sweetie. But that's not true. There are women out there like that.
I was going to say, I know a lot of of old over 40 women, and there are plenty of them who would like more sex. And not a one of them has ever considered demanding it as their right from their partner, or
maybe not even demanding it, just taking it.
Right.
Like they don't even act like that is something that they're thinking about. NRSV UE says this. But because of cases of sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife and each woman her own husband. The husband should give to his wife what is due her, and likewise the wife to her husband. For the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a set time, to devote yourselves to prayer, and then come together again so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. And really all Paul is saying is that if you're married, you need to make sure you have the relief valve of occasional prophylactic passionless sex.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to get pent up, and then something bad going to happen. But this gets far too often leveraged by men to mean you're not allowed to deny me sex.
And I think a lot of those apologists would attack us and say, who are we to say that the Bible's morality is wrong, or that the Bible's definition, the Bible's definition of what's okay isn't correct. And yet they would be the first ones to say, no, you can't have 3 wives and 4 concubines. No, you can't.
And however many sex slaves you want.
Right.
We've rejected. We've come to the consensus that we reject so much of the Bible's, not just sexual ethic, but just ethic in general.
Right.
That the notion that it bears any authority in and of itself that is absolute is absolutely laughable. Yeah. It's all negotiable. And people can get as upset about that as they want. That does not change the fact.
And it must be negotiated.
Yes.
You have to. And so like taking the position that, well, one part of the Bible says that I get to maritally rape my wife. As you say, you're doing apologetics for rape now. Maybe back off on that one. That's probably That's a loser right there.
Yeah, and that's an auto block response for me. So, sorry, that was a bit of a tangent that took more time than I
it was
intended,
important, and I'm glad that we went there. Well, all right, there you go. That's the law. Please feel free to ignore it or to redefine it as pleases your morality. Let's move on to our chapter and verse. In this week's chapter and verse, we're going to Hosea. Hosea is a prophet, and this is his book.
It is.
It's an interesting one. I as I was reading it, and it's not one of, usually when you and I do a whole book, it's
usually a one chapter book.
It's a one chapter, maybe 2-3 chapters. This one has 14 chapters, so
yes.
It's a little, and what
you're getting the 30,000 foot view,
right?
We're in Comfort Plus, but we're getting the 30,000 foot view.
And what drives me bonkers about it, and what was so hard for me was as I was reading it, is that it keeps saying the same damn thing over and over and over and over. But it uses a lot of metaphor. It uses a lot of symbolism, and it gets, for my money, quite confusing in the process. So, well, I don't know. So dive in.
Well, let's set the stage first.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
We're in the 8th century, and this may mean absolutely nothing to many of you. Maybe you have no framework for thinking about this. But if we have pre-exilic Israel and post-exilic Israel, and the exile's in the middle, the exile is 6th century.
Okay.
Pre-exilic is everything prior to that. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th brings you traditionally to Saul and David and Solomon.
Okay.
We're not going to worry about everything after the exile. This is the 8th century. The northern kingdom of Israel still exists. The southern kingdom of Judah is there. And both of them are thriving. You have a king in the northern kingdom, Jeroboam II, who reigns for about 40 years. You have a king in the southern kingdom of Judah named Uzziah, who reigns for about 40 years. And as a result of the unusually long reigns of these two kings, there is a lot of prosperity. There is trade going on. There is building going on. There is population growth going on. There is concentration of wealth. And this is what actually catalyzes a lot of the prophetic literature that comes from the 8th century. Micah, Amos, Isaiah, Hosea. These are 8th century prophets, and we've talked about it before. One of their main problems is with all the wealth and the prosperity and the suffering of the poor and the needy and the afflicted and the foreigner. And Hosea is no exception. Hosea 6:6 is the famous, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, that Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew quotes twice, tells his challengers, go and learn what that means. So, so Hosea is one of a bunch of prophets who pop up in the 8th century right when people are getting really wealthy to chew them out for social injustices that are going on. So Hosea is from the northern kingdom, and the northern kingdom is going to be destroyed in 722 BCE. The Assyrians come in and they take away the 10 tribes of Israel, and they are assimilated into Assyria and later Babylon, and they disappear, and they are functionally gone.
Right.
Now, we believe that remnants of these 10 tribes were left behind or ran down to the southern kingdom. And so there are fragments of those populations that became part of the southern kingdom of Judah. But the lost 10 tribes of Israel is a reference to what happens in 722 BCE.
Right.
Hosea is writing between around 750 BCE and around 720 BCE. So he's talking about this. Now, scholars think
this is a thing that's happening in real time for Hosea.
For the prophet Hosea. Now, scholars are in pretty widespread agreement that a good chunk of Hosea does go back to somebody and a poetic prophet who was writing in the 8th century BCE. So there's disagreement about exactly how much of it is from the middle of the 8th century and how much of it is the end of the 8th century or into the 7th century, or maybe post-exilic in origin. Some people think there are some Deuteronomistic revisions going on here and there. Some people think that the author of Hosea and the particular ideological school that produced Hosea might be responsible for the later production of Deuteronomy and the Deuteronomistic histories because of the close relationships between the two. So we don't have a real clear idea about what is genuine and what is not, but most scholars think that probably the majority of it is genuine.
Okay.
So
that's a good thing to note.
Yeah.
As so much of this book ends up not being authentic to what it claims to be.
Yeah.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kan du norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify, spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Marqeta. When it comes to your payments provider, you can't afford to compromise. Marqeta's modern payment solutions flex with your business without the trade-offs. Stable and agile, secure and innovative, scalable and configurable. If they say you can't have it all, don't believe them. Your business demands more. Choose a payments provider that delivers more. Choose Marqeta.
Visit Marqeta.com/Spotify to learn more.
Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original, which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
So verse 1 starts off, the word of the Lord that came to Hosea, son of Beeri, in the days of King Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah of Judah, and in the days of King Jeroboam, son of Joash of Israel. So we got 4 kings. His tenure overlaps with the reigns of 4 different kings. Starting
because you had just said that we had kings with long reigns, but like, I guess so. He's presiding prophet over all of these the reigns of all these kings.
Yeah, so Uzziah is reigning from around 780, 775 to around 740, 735, something like that. Okay. And so Hosea is like the last 15-ish years of Uzziah's reign. Jotham is 15 years, Ahaz is 20 years, and then Hezekiah is batting clean up there. So he's Hosea is mainly toward the beginning of Hezekiah, but and then in the days of King Jeroboam, son of Joash, he just mentions Jeroboam, which is odd because he reigns from 790-ish to 750-ish. So he's ignoring the Northern Kingdom for the rest of the existence of the Northern Kingdom down to 722 when it gets destroyed.
And just so that I'm clear, the Northern Kingdom is Israel and the Southern Kingdom is Judah. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Now, the Northern Kingdom, the capital is Samaria, so that's why, I don't know if you recall when you read through Hosea, there was a lot of mention of Samaria.
Right.
But Hosea also refers to the Northern Kingdom as Ephraim.
There are so many, Ephraim confused the crap out of me. Had to look that one up.
Yeah.
And yes, I didn't know that Samaria was a capital city rather than another kingdom. I was confused about that.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's spoken of as a region. But they're and that's why when you get down to the New Testament, they're like, don't go through Samaria, don't go through there. But daddy, stay away from there. Stay away from Samaria. But and then we get to verse 2. I remember several years ago I sat down and I was like, I'm gonna translate the book of Hosea, and I stopped at verse 2.
You didn't make it very far.
No, but I had a lot of other things getting in the way. But here's what the NRSV UE says. When the Lord first spoke through Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, "Go, take for yourself a wife of prostitution. And have children of prostitution. For the land commits great prostitution by forsaking the Lord." So, and I'm just going to pull up the Hebrew real quick of Hosea 1 verse 2. And he says, and said to the Lord to Hosea, Lech kach lecha, take for yourself eshet zununim. So a wife of, and then it's the plural, prostitutions, sex workings. It's probably an abstract plural, meaning it's referring to the abstraction.
The idea of prostitution or whatever.
So it's unclear if the idea is marry a woman who's a sex worker or marry a woman who is characterized by promiscuity or marry a woman who was born of sex work. Like there are a variety of different ways to interpret this, and it's not exactly clear what is going on.
Well, and also, none of the potential interpretations make it any better. It's still wildly confusing why the Lord is saying this to Hosea. Like, why do you want Hosea? Basically, it turns out that the Lord is just saying, hey, take this kind of wife because it'll be useful for my metaphor.
Yeah. You'll love this. The payoff is great.
Yeah.
But there's also an interesting thing. It says, take for yourself a woman of prostitution and children of prostitution. So it's not clear that it's saying have children with this woman, but adopt the children that have been born to this woman as an outcome of her sex work. Yeah. It's unclear what's going on here. Not the kind of thing that you would expect from a prophet in our day and age, unless maybe for some Christian nationalists, this is exactly the kind of thing you would expect.
Pete Hegseth or something coming in strong with something weird. I would say here, one of the things that's really interesting for me, I'm glad that you mentioned trying to translate this, because one of the ways that I sometimes explore a biblical text for this show is that I listen to a recording of someone who has done a recording of the Bible, but nobody's done that for the NRSVUE. So they're usually reading out of the King James Version. Yeah. So I'm listening to the King James Version while I'm following along with the NRSVUE, just to sort of, that way I can see the differences and whatever. And I'll tell you what, Hosea frequently, it's just like those translation differences are off the rails. Yeah. It is so hard to follow. It is like I have to pause and go, wait, what did he just say? What does this say? So yeah, the King James Version of verse 2 says, in the beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea, or the beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea, and the Lord said to Hosea, go take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, for the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord.
Yeah. And it's such an odd thing to do, because it seems like I'm imagining the Hosea being like, okay, yeah. Couldn't I just write down that I did this?
Right.
Since it seems like the impact is in other people finding out about it.
Right.
And so I could just write down that I did this. God's like, no, you have to go do it.
You have to actually do it.
I don't think you're understanding me. It doesn't seem meaningful until I tell other people about it, and I could just tell them about it. You really want me to do this, and then just write down that I did it, and then publish that.
You and I need to write a biblical sitcom. I don't know why that's not on our plate yet. Anyway, we're going to crowdfund that eventually.
Yeah, so he went and he took Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. So this makes it sound like, no, the text is saying have children of sex workings, promiscuity, prostitutions, whoredoms, whatever. And whether this means because that was her profession, or maybe it means this is going to characterize them. Maybe they're going to grow up to engage. The son is going to engage in sex work. I don't know. But
I mean, it seems reasonable to just say that, these, because their mother was a sex worker, they are the children of sex workers, and that there's a stigma that just sort of follows them because of that or something.
Maybe. You would think that since
he's
the one who is the father,
right?
That would, doesn't his prophethood kind of cover a multitude of sex work? But I don't know. And the Lord said to him, name him Jezreel. And that's the valley in the northern kingdom of Israel that was very prominent. That's where they got a lot of their wealth from.
Oh, okay.
For a little while, I will. That's like one of the agriculturally, that's one of the richest areas in all of Israel is the Jezreel Valley.
Okay.
For a little while, I will punish the house of Jehu for the blood of Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. On that day, I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. And we have talked about Jehu getting slain in the northern kingdom. Anyway,
right.
She conceived again and bore a daughter. Then the Lord said to him, name her Lo Ruhamah. which means there is no mercy, or there is no compassion, or something like that. So this is where the Cobra Kai get their motto from. Mercies for the weak. For I will no longer have pity on the house of Israel or forgive them. But I will have pity on the house of Judah, and I will save them by the Lord their God. I will not save them by bow or by sword or by war or by horses or by horsemen. When she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, she conceived and bore a son. Then the Lord said, name him Lo Ami, which means not my people. For you are not my people, and I am not your God. So rough names for these kids to grow up with.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to
not only rough names, but like that's some rough stuff that God is pronouncing.
Yeah.
You said that Hosea is an Israelite or a Judahite?
Probably from the northern kingdom of Israel. Probably.
Okay, so God is saying to a guy from Israel,
yeah,
screw Israel. Israel sucks. I'm not going to save Israel. I'm going to save Judah, but Israel's going down.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah, it's not great. And yeah, to be like, name your kid. Name your kid. Your nation is going to be destroyed.
Yeah, name your kid. Israel sucks, and just have them walk around with that and let people ask questions.
And it goes on like that. There's chapter 2, I think, it's overwhelmingly poetry. The chapter 1 is some narrative, but chapter 2 is when we get into the poetry, and that's where things get really interesting. But I think, where is it? I think it's verse 16. Yeah. 16, we have the poetry, and then we get into more names. The poetry is all about Baal.
Right.
This is one of the main things. The point of this is Israel is God's wife. Israel is worshiping other gods, and that is metaphorized as adultery.
Right.
So this is what is going on with Hosea and Gomer, that, wife of prostitutions or sex workings, and that's what's going on between God and Israel. And Baal is kind of the main antagonist in all of this poetry.
Yeah.
And then verse 16 says, on that day, says the Lord, you will call me, and then NRSV says, my husband. Ishi is how it reads in Hebrew. And no longer will you call me Baali, which means my Baal. Now, this is a play on words, because the Hebrew word Baal can mean husband.
Okay.
It can mean Lord, master, husband. Don't read into any of that, or read into it. Yes, the husband was the Lord or master, but Baali was probably a title that could be used to refer to Adonai, the God of Israel, because it would mean my master.
Right.
And so when we look in Samuel and Kings and things like that, one of Saul's sons is named Eshbaal, which would mean man of Baal or man of the Lord or master. It could be a title for the God of Israel.
It all gets very confusing. Can I just say, name your gods a name rather than a title, because otherwise it just becomes a weird thing.
Yeah. And so this play on words is saying, don't call me that anymore, because that reminds me of Sancho over there. And says, instead, call me my husband. And then verse 17, for I will remove the name of the Baals from her mouth. And they
let me tell you something. I read that, and I was hoping we would pass over it so that I didn't have to giggle at it. But I mean, removing balls from your mouth is
yes.
That
the
is
names,
biblical.
the names of the balls.
The names of the balls.
Yeah, thunder and lightning.
Donner and Blitzen. All right.
If the left one don't get you, then the right one will.
Oh my gosh, we have descended, my friends.
You load 16 tons. Oh, And they shall be mentioned by name no more. So we're still dealing with that.
I mean, I'm confused about the plurality of the names of the Baals.
Yes, this is something that's interesting that you find in it in Judges, you find it in Hosea, you find it in a couple of places where you have the Baals and the Asherahs, where and there are a couple different ways this could be interpreted. One way is to understand each individual Baal or Asherah to mean the local manifestation. Kind of like you have the Virgin of Guadalupe, and you have the Virgin of this other place over here, and you have the Virgin of this other place over here.
Right.
And that's supposed to reflect the fact that there was a manifestation of the Virgin in a specific way to respond to a specific need. And you have that in the ancient West Asian kind of ritual landscape, and there's a book called The Splintered Divine, which tries to talk about how you have these different manifestations of deities in a bunch of different places. So that could be an explanation. Another explanation is that the word Baal had become lexicalized as a kind of generic reference to a foreign deity.
Right.
So the Baals just means all those foreign deities.
The lords, the masters, the gods of all of the lands.
And Asherahs would mean the female deities of all these lands. And they're both being associated with fertility deities and rituals and things like that, because that's one of the ways that you can make them sound as gross as possible.
They're the naughty, dirty
Yes,
gods.
because if you need something to be dirty, then it's about sex. And, that's why Mary Magdalene became a sex worker, is because she was inaccurately conflated with a woman, a sinful woman in another chapter in Luke. And then Pope Gregory the Great was like, well, she's hugely sinful. What does that mean? Well, that means she was a sex worker, obviously. So then Mary Magdalene became a sex worker. But so there's a lot of fertility stuff being attributed to the Baals and the Asherahs, which probably wasn't accurate. But we basically get two different kinds of promises here. God is using this metaphor to say, I'm going to punish my wife.
My wife.
and there are all these accusations about how the wife has been unfaithful and all this, but
again, the wife is Israel in this metaphor.
Yes. In another part of the story, the son is Israel in the metaphor, so it gets complicated.
It keeps throwing itself around. It is hard to follow. I gotta say, like, if you're reading it, just so much of the Bible, as you read it, you can either do the glaze over and just get through it sort of reading, and just hope you get something out of it that's meaningful to you, or you can like really buckle down and try to understand it, and that is a chore.
Yeah, good luck. Godspeed. But there's and mainly when you look through all the poetry and all the metaphors, Hosea is basically representing God as saying, look, you hurt me, you cut me deep. And I kind of want to end things, but I love you too much, so I'm going to ultimately restore our relationship. And there are folks who divide Hosea into three segments: chapters 1 through 3, 4 through 11, and then 12 through 14. And the second and third segments, they kind of focus on a bunch of accusations and then end with a promise of restoration, and then chapter 14 ends with the call to repentance and a promise of restoration. So
a promise of restoration, but not before I'm gonna really mess you up.
Yeah. And
like there's this whole like, yes, you cheated on me, you're awful, you went and got your barley and your wine from another dude. And I'm pissed off about it, and I'm gonna wreck you.
You beat some other dude's wheat in his threshing floor,
and then maybe I'll let you back in.
Yeah,
It doesn't sound. I'm just going to say it. It doesn't sound like a healthy marriage.
No, it's an abusive marriage where God has all the control and is a jealous, spiteful master or lord or husband. Yeah. So, and it gets worse, and you go to Jeremiah or the book of Revelation,
right?
Where then you've got a bunch of shaming and sexual abuse and stuff like that is going on as a result of the infidelity of the metaphorical wife.
Yeah.
So it can get worse. But yeah, that's the main thrust of the metaphor in Hosea, that Israel has been an unfaithful wife. God is torn, but ultimately God's love for Israel is going to win out in the end. And so even though there's going to be the destruction of the northern kingdom of Israel, even though there's going to be the Babylonian exile, ultimately there will be restoration. And this brings up an issue that people have been wrestling with since the Babylonian exile, is when is the restoration actually happening? When people have been reading Hosea ever since, and Christians who read Hosea today are still looking forward to this restoration, and they're appropriating it for themselves. The followers of Jesus are now Israel. There's that supersessionism. But and when you look through all the prophecies about restoration, and even later texts that are like, we almost got there, but not quite. But it's coming. It's right around the corner. Daniel thinks it's going to happen in the mid-160s BC.
Any minute now.
Yeah. And it doesn't happen. And the book of Revelation thinks, any minute now it's going to happen. And it doesn't happen. 2,000 years down the road, any minute now it's going to happen. Oh, we got China and we got Russia and we got Turkey, and they're going to surround Israel, and that's going to be the second coming. Oh, it's going to happen on September 23rd. Oh, it's going to happen. No, it was September 25th. No, actually, it's going to be in October.
Right.
The restoration never seems to happen the way it is prophesied. So this is something that people are continuously looking forward to, and this is why I think we've talked about this before. Maybe we haven't focused on it, but the Christian Old Testament ends with Malachi, because it's the great and the terrible day of the Lord comes. He will turn the hearts of the parents to the children and the hearts of the children to the parents, so that I will not come and strike the land with a curse. And I will send you the prophet Elijah. And this is a convenient segue into the Gospel of Matthew, introducing Jesus as the fulfillment of all this stuff. But if you go into the Jewish Bible, it ends at the end of 2 Chronicles 36. Thus says King Cyrus of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Let any of those among you who are of his people, may the Lord their God be with them, go up. So this is a realization of restoration, not the final one, but it is the Jewish arrangement of Hebrew Bible text ends with this, I think intentionally, in order to close the book on a partial fulfillment and an expectation of return and restoration in the future, which is ultimately what Hosea is looking forward to. And unfortunately, Gomer and Lo Ruchama and Lo Ami and Jezreel never got to see it. But hopefully they were not teased too maliciously.
I mean, I think that I like the idea of restoration being the takeaway. Even if it never actually happens, it's just a nicer takeaway. The reason that you and I'm just going to spill this really quickly and then we'll close it up. But the reason that you and I are actually doing a Hosea episode is because we had a patron write into us who had said that he or she had gone to some sort of evangelical meeting that he had been invited to in college. He or she had been invited to in college, and they went to the church, and basically got got harangued when they got there by this reading of Hosea that compared everyone in the room to whores. So I feel like there are different potential takeaways here, and it does make sense that someone's takeaway from Hosea would be about prostitution, because Hosea was obsessed with sex workers.
Yeah.
You couldn't shake a stick at Hosea without him calling somebody a whore.
He's the little old lady around the board table in Tommy Boy who goes, and that's when the whores come in. And David Spade goes, kind of like her idea. The very last verse of Hosea 14:9, very famous verse. A lot of scholars think this is actually written by the people who collected and published Hosea's writings rather than by Hosea himself. And it says, those who are wise understand these things. Those who are discerning know them, for the ways of the Lord are right, and the upright walk in them, but transgressors stumble in them. So it does end with a choose the right.
Yeah.
Kind of
walk
kind of
upright, don't stumble.
Yeah. But yeah, you can focus. It is easy to get lost in the sauce of fornications and sex workings and Zenunim. But I think the point there is really Hosea is trying to say, you are such disgusting people, but God loves you so much that God is going to bring you back into the fold eventually. Once you get your crap together. Just get it together.
Yeah.
Put it in a backpack.
Turns out that it is not within human nature to ever actually get it together. So,
yeah.
Alas, we'll be waiting on that restoration for a good long while.
Yeah, he needed to adopt the eternal perspective. The getting together will only be gotten together in the great beyond.
In the great getting together.
Yes, once we have shuffled off this mortal coil, then we will get all the coils together.
All right, friends. Well, there you go. There's your Hosea for the day. Go out there and commit some adultery if you want to. It's we're not fans of it, but far be it from us to prohibit anybody there. Yeah, we're not moralizing here. That's not our job.
We don't.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to become a part of how we actually make this thing happen, you can go and become one of our patrons over on patreon.com/Data Over Dogma. It's where you can sign up for to at whatever level makes you comfortable, but if you give us just a little bit of your money, you can get an early and ad-free version of every episode. You can get access to the after party. That's bonus weekly content. Thanks so much to Roger Gowdy for editing the show. We'll talk to you again next week.
Bye, everybody.
Data Over Dogma is a member of the Airwave Media Network. It is a production of Data Over Dogma Media, LLC, copyright 2025, all rights reserved.
Hello, this is Matt from the Explorers Podcast. I want to invite you to join me on the voyages and journeys of the most famous explorers in the history of the world. These are the thrilling and captivating stories of Magellan, Shackleton, Lewis and Clark, and so many other famous and not so famous adventurers from throughout history. Go to explorerspodcast.com or just look us up on your podcast app. That's the Explorers Podcast.
Hello everyone, Takuya here.
And I'm Gabby.
And we are the hosts of History of Everything, a podcast which you can probably guess by the name is, it's about everything. Do you want to know why people thought potatoes were evil and would give you syphilis? Are you curious about all the stories of the terrible and stupid ways that people have kicked the bucket over the years? Do you want to hear tales about all of the different badasses of history and the lives that they had brought to life? Well, if so, then look no further. History of Everything is just the right podcast for you. It's available on Spotify, Pandora, and anywhere else that you get your podcast from. Join us for some fun and just see how weird and wacky history can be.
The 250th anniversary of the American Revolution is here. But do you really know the full story? I'm Liz Covart, historian and host of Ben Franklin's World, the podcast that takes you beyond the myths and into the real histories of early America, from before Christopher Columbus to the early days of the United States. As we commemorate 250 years since the American Revolution, now is the perfect time to dive into the people, places, and ideas that have shaped our world. Tune into Ben Franklin's World and experience early American history like never before. Follow Ben Franklin's World wherever you get your podcasts.